Here in the corner, POW MIA Missing Soldiers Table, which is here in front of the podium, and our information table that is behind you. Before we continue, I would like to ask all Marines here today to please stand. You the only one, Sarge? Okay. He's already standing. Like a good Marine. But Sarge, yesterday, I believe it was the Marine Corps birthday.
Yes, sir.
Hoorah!
Hoorah.
Well, I have a birthday surprise for you. If you turn around and look at the screen. Happy birthday, Marine Corps.
Where's my cake? No, I don't need it. Thank you.
Sergeant Arms. Please escort the chaplain of the day to the podium.
Good morning. But he forgot to tell you, though, doesn't look bad for 244 years old, right?
All right.
Everybody stand. Uncover. We are gathered today under the watchful eyes of a higher spirit in the tradition of the founders of this Veterans Council did 100 years ago. Let us not forget but remember our POW MIAs and those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, their lives so that we and others may be free today. The purpose of the Lowell Veterans oh, I ain't reading that. Amen. Maybe it's okay.
Remain standing. Sergeant Arms. Please escort Bar Reserves and POW MIA National League of Families to the podium.
Do you want me to do the table? The whole thing?
Read it out and I'll put it together. I'll put the light on.
Why don't I just do the
Okay.
dedication so people can get out? Good morning. My name is Barbara Zibb, and I am the Northeast Regional Coordinator for the National League of Families for Southeast Asia. Matt and I have been working on the table for MIAs, POWs, so on and so forth. So I did take care of Matt for his flag, and I would like to present you with your chair cover from the families for the POW and MIAs. So you're all set, Matt.
Thank you.
Glad to take care of that for you.
Do you want to read that? Thank you very much. Sergeant Arms. Please command the colors to be presented and escort Mr. Eric Lamarche for the national anthem, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, please stand.
All I got, hold colors. Forward, march. Ready, pace. Hold it, arms, hold. Breathe, set, arms. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Forward, march.
Oh, please be seated. I'd like to introduce our guests and our officers and members of the Greater Lowell Veterans Council. Myself, Matt Elkins, Commander. Steve Shadow Fitzgerald, Vice Commander. Dick Ducharme, Quartermaster. William Zune, Chaplain. Joe Zangri, Judge Advocate. Ron Roy, Sergeant Arms. Richard Howe, Historian. Tom Shannon, Adjutant. And our trustees, Peter Manning, Joe Monanta, Jeff Hollett, and the GOVC LMA trustee, Mike Baker Peasley. Membership organizations are the American Legion, 87 Lowell, 212 Chelmsford, 221 Bedford, 247 Tingsboro, 259 Tewksbury, 313 Chelmsford, 315 Drake. Armenian American Veterans, Disabled American Veterans, 25 Lowell, 47 Chelmsford. Franco-American War Veterans, Greek American Veterans, Heart of Traveling Soldier, Jewish War Veterans, Korean War Veterans, Marine Corps League, Merrimack Valley Vietnam Veterans. The mission continues. Nam Knights of Merrimack Valley, Polish American Veterans, Portuguese American Veterans, U.S. Submarine Veterans, Inc., VFW Post 662 Lowell, and 9307 Drake. Our representatives from the state, Representative David Nagel. From the city, did I just see Vesna come in? Yep. Vice Chair Vesna Noon. Councilors David Conway, Rodney Elliott, Rita Mercia, and Counselor-elect Sakari Chow. We also have the Lowell Fire Department's fire chief, and, oh, Mr. Milanazzo. Sorry, Mr. Milanazzo, I didn't see you come in. Member of the Lowell Veterans Commission. Veterans, we have a member from the VA with an info table off to the side. We have the Patton Memorial Society, and today we also have the U.S. National Park Service back there also with an information table. And I thank both of you for being here, for giving out information on what you do. Color guard today was provided by Lowell High Air Force JROTC. The bugler for today is Tom Shannon of the U.S. Submarine Veterans. Firing team will consist of the NAM Knights, Legion 315, and VFW 9307. Our singer today is Eric Lamache. For those of you that were here for the pastries in the morning, we got those from Sam's Club. I'd also like to thank Mr. Peter Lally, the president of the Lowell Management Group that manages the Lowell Auditorium for us, Steve Pertel and the LMA staff for everything that they do for setup and also the maintaining everything for us as well. Lowell Telecommunications here recording for us, the Greater Lowell Veterans Council Volunteer Corps. Two groups that unfortunately have to exist in any time and hold a very special. If I missed anyone, please let someone know so I can. Oh, well, I guess I'll use my Army voice then. Sergeant Arms, please escort Mr. Riley Rober from the Lowell Spinners to the podium, please. Over there. Just gonna have to speak up. No, just whatever you have to say, and just speak loud.
I'd like to thank Commander Elkins and everyone here for inviting us out. We do have a donation we'd like to give to the Greater Lowell Veteran Council that I'd like to present to Commander Elkins.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, can you bring this over the deck? Bring it over the deck. He's got the money. Thank you. Sergeant Arms. Please escort Miss Finneral to the laying of the wreath. Okay, we got our mic back. At this time, I would like for one representative of each organization to come to the front, please. And Sarge, could you escort Jess, over to the podium. I know the Submariners are here, the Namnites are here, Armenians are here. One representative from each organization, please. Okay. Don't worry about it. 315 to Jeff. Yeah, you've got your thing, just improvise. You've got your thing, improvise.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today to help us honor our veterans. On behalf of the Volunteer Corps, I would like to present a guest book that we had in September for the centennial. Also, I will be presenting the cards that we had signing up there for each member organization that we have here present today. I would also like to say a thank you to the Gold Star families and the POW MIA families. The sacrifice you guys had to make by losing a family member is unimaginable. So thank you all for your service, and thank you for the families who have lost their loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. At our events, we try to educate those attending about the reasons that we have gathered. Today, we honor the veterans for their service and our freedom. We must also remember the sacrifices made by the families and the emotional and psychological toll that they have endured. I'd like to also mention that on November 9th, it was the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, but not the end of the Cold War. As veterans, we understand that the cost of freedom is a blank check that is up to and including our lives, but many do not understand what that means. We are willing to die for all Americans to preserve their freedom and this nation. To try to put the war on terror into perspective, it has been a war that we've been fighting for 18 years. And it's for the first time in America's 243-year history that someone born at the beginning of a war or conflict is now of age to serve in the armed forces and be deployed to take in that war. The purpose of the videos that we do show is to create an understanding to show what it takes to secure that freedom that everyone enjoys. Today, our speakers in the videos focus on PTSD awareness. Sergeant Arms. Please escort David Tanner to the podium.
Hey everybody, my name is David Tanner, Sergeant retired. I'm just going to be giving a little bit of a speech here, and please forgive me for looking down so much and not at you. And I got to put my eyeballs on. So I keep telling people I have a 5-second memory, because I'm sure a lot of folks do. And, it's just age. Well, I went to the doctor about my short-term memory. First thing he did was made me pay up front. Anybody? Okay. All right. So I'd like to thank Commander Elkins and Ms. Wheeler from the Greater Lowell Veterans Council for putting this all together for us. This year we're talking about PTSD. I'm not going to talk about all kinds of statistics. There'll be some that you'll see later in some of the videos, but I do quickly want to talk about the 2-to-1 ratio. Did you know that every 2 hours, one veteran takes their life? Why is that? Well, it's PTSD. It's been called many things over the centuries, from shell shock to battle fatigue to gross stress reaction to post-Vietnam syndrome, and now it's PTSD. Symptoms may vary from person to person, but they're all the same for the various names. PTSD is not visible to most. Some vets may stand and just stare blankly into nothingness. Some drink too much and never acknowledge you or anything you're saying to them. Some may laugh without any explanation. Some will start crying without explanation. Some may scream violently in their sleep, then wake up shaking and sweating. Then you have those symptoms that you can't see, such as avoiding other people, sitting or standing in a corner so that they can see the door or a window. Some may be talking to you, but always watching what's going on around them. Forgive me. One of the most misunderstood aspects of PTSD is that it's not just happening to people who are in the middle of combat. Some veterans never leave the wire, meaning they never leave whatever base, COB, or FOB that they're at. So why would they have PTSD? I just want to make it clear that I'm not a doctor of any sort, so I can't speak to the medical diagnosis of all of this. But when a person is put into a situation where they constantly have to be aware of their surroundings so they don't die, be it in combat or on post or anything in between, the chemicals in the brain that allows the focus and stashes emotions, puts them away in the back of the head there. Forgive me again, there it is. From my understanding, there are some studies out there that show when a person is in that state of mind for an extended period of time, it can't be shut off when they're back home. Why are we 100% of the time on alert when inside a post? Simple. Ever since the Korean War, the military's had some of the local population from that war zone on post, and you're not sure what they're thinking. Some locals clean bathrooms. In Iraq, at the very least, we had them cook our food. They were doing our laundry, etc. We still have to always be aware of what they're doing. For instance, while I was on a post called Scania in Iraq, I had gone outside in the middle of the night to have a cigarette. I saw someone digging through our trash barrels. I went to stop them, but they got away, so I don't know what they were truly doing. But any piece of information like a name or social security number, picture, anything, can give them intelligence that we don't want them to have. A statistic of how many people are on base is another one that we don't want them to have. So here's another topic issue that we hear about once in a while, get pissed off about when we hear about it, but forget about it easily after a couple of weeks. But the person it happens to will never forget about it and constantly relives it. I'm talking about those who get raped. And it's not just women who get raped. Some men, although extremely few, but some men get raped as well. That victim may never leave a base, but will definitely have PTSD. When someone says PTSD, most people, I'm sure, if not all of you folks, automatically think about being in combat, shooting and killing, fixing up those who are injured. They aren't the only ones with PTSD, so that's something to think about. I'm not going to talk about what I did or didn't do and what happened or didn't happen to me personally on my deployments, but I will talk about my experience when I came home, which I'm sure many of you folks have the same experience. So I was married for 2 years. I was married 2 months after I had gotten home, proposed to her less than a month after I got home. Prior to my deployment, she and I could talk about anything and everything, quite literally. When I returned, she complained a lot about us not talking like the way that we used to. The first time we both realized something was wrong with me personally was at the very first 4th of July fireworks show that I attended. That first boom, I jumped out of my seat about 5 feet in the air and fell over backwards. My wife and my 2 stepkids at the time, they were laughing because they thought it was funny. I stood up and I was extremely angry. My attitude went from a loving husband and stepdad to the meanest son of a bitch you'd ever meet. I never hit my wife or kids. That's never been me. I don't drink much at all because that's not me either. So why would I get so mad so fast? Simple answer is PTSD. You see, PTSD isn't just a state of mind or a reaction. PTSD is many things and different things to different people. Anxiety, depression, extreme mood changes are just a few of the whole bunch of aspects of PTSD. When I'm anxious, I have my hand scalar and I'm usually scratching the skin off of my right index finger. Sometimes when I'm sitting, my leg is just shaking out of control and I don't even realize it. I didn't see anyone about my undiagnosed PTSD because I didn't think there was a problem and that it was everybody else that was the problem. I didn't see any changes in me because those changes happened over a period of 13 months. How many of you consciously recognize how you feel at any particular time of the day and of the week? We come home, oh, I'm hungry, oh, I'm so tired, things like that. I had a tough day. Never once do we say, I was so anxious, or I was so helpless, or I was so shameful. Those are feelings of PTSD that people don't recognize. It wasn't until after my divorce, 2 years later, that I finally started getting help for my physical issues, yet my mental issues still were not being addressed. It was only 3 years ago or 7 years after I got home that I start getting that mental help, and that's only because I was finally able to recognize something that was wrong with me, and even then I had to push the VA to recognize that I had recognized it. Unless we as veterans recognize our own that there is a change in us, nothing can ever be done to fix it or address it. PTSD cannot be fixed. It cannot be cured like a cut that needs stitches that heals over time, but it can be managed. Only if we as veterans get that help. So how is it that you folks have never been deployed not feel helpless when you see that change in a spouse, a son, a daughter, an aunt and uncle, a grandparent? The short answer is by being there for them. Whether you understand or not, we're going through it. My guess is 99% of civilians will never understand what we go through. I hear all the time, I can't talk to my wife about what I went through because she won't understand. My psychologist, when I first met her, she was asking some questions, and I told her that she wouldn't understand. At a snap of the finger, she responds, why do you think I wouldn't understand? Is it because you think I'm stupid? Is it because I've never been deployed? I didn't have an answer, because I didn't know myself. When a child hugs their parent who's going through PTSD, managed or unmanaged, there's a feeling of love, and all of a sudden the symptoms of PTSD for that brief moment stop. So in summary, if you have a family member who's ever been deployed, be it World War II or current wars, ask them about what they experienced and let them know, although you may not know what they've been through, or understand how they feel, that you are there for them regardless. And be closer to that family member by giving extra hugs, or understand if they're scanning a room, looking around, or understand when they're in the middle of the night, they wake up screaming their head off, shaking and sweating. It's not the veteran's fault. It's the experience they had that's the fault. In the time that I took to give this speech, 1 veteran's taken their life and 3 veterans went homeless. Last thing I like to think about, here and beyond, veterans go homeless because they can't hold down a job because of some aspect of their PTSD that's going on unmanaged, or because they aren't making enough money to sustain a home. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of programs for all PTSD that each and every one of you helps a veteran realize that they do need help, not to force them to get the help, but be there if they do want that help, realized or not. Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings, and I hope you all understand what I was talking about and take it to heart. Thank you very much. Is that okay? Thank you, brother. Is that okay? Thank you. Yeah, of course. I'm glad to see you here, sir. I love you too, brother. He's one of my neighbors. Another Vietnam vet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I call on the next speaker, I'd like to acknowledge that Representative Thomas Golden arrived. He's standing in the back. And former Senator Pangiotakis is with us as well. Thank you for both being here. Sergeant Arms, please escort Jeff Hollett to the podium.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Charles Hollett. I am a retired Sergeant First Class from the U.S. Army and the Massachusetts Army National Guard. This Veterans Day is very special to me, and this is why. This is my son, J.J. McGillicuddy, who texted me about 4 days ago. He just landed in the Middle East. I served 3 tours in the Middle East. I'm going to try to talk to you guys openly today. I haven't prepared a speech, and I think some of the stories that I've shared with Matt are the reason why he asked me to come here and talk about this connection of PTSD and veterans. It's Veterans Day, so I want to try to draw a line. Why are we talking about PTSD on Veterans Day? It's a good topic. So I'm going to try to draw that line together and come back, right back to my son, JJ. I served three tours in the Middle East. And imagine, if you will, I was going home on leave, and I jumped on a Black Hawk, and it went the wrong way. Instead of going south to take me to Kuwait, it went north because of a sandstorm. And I landed in a place called Balad. I got stuck there for 2 weeks. And while I was there, I volunteered for some transportation duties because I was with the Transportation Battalion and a Water Purification Battalion at the unit at the time. So I helped out, by volunteering some of my time while I was stuck on the ground. And I used their chow halls. And one day, we asked ourselves, why do so many of us hurt ourselves? It's because we have access. It's because we're trained and we're carrying weapons, and we've been trained to use those weapons. And then back to that one day at the chow hall in Balad, 23-year-old female soldier. We have access to technology. Just got a phone call from home. Her boyfriend broke up with her. She walked out of the chow hall after sitting down with some of her other friends, and she didn't know how to explain to them how she was feeling. the sense of loss that she was going through. She was devastated. She wasn't thinking right. So she walked out of the chow hall with her .45, she loaded it, she put it to her head, and she pulled the trigger. And she was gone. And only 5 minutes before, she was sitting down, eating a meal with regular soldiers just like us. So that's one of many stories that I've been subjected to during some of my many combat tours. I served 27 years. I could take you a story all the way back to when I was in basic training. Camp Jackson, South Carolina. I was new to the military. I was 21 years old. And I failed my PT test because I had gotten hurt. So I got held over. Basic training for me, instead of 8 weeks, was 15 weeks. And it occurred over what we call Exodus and the Christmas holidays. So there was a group of young soldiers, me and about 7 other guys in one barracks, and about 5 females across the way in another barracks. And the drill sergeant said to me, because I was the oldest at 21, you know, I need you to march these soldiers over to the chow hall. Interesting how this chow hall, you know, has become almost a theme in many of these stories that have occurred for me. But while we were marching over the chow hall, one of the female soldiers handed me a note. And I just shoved it in my pocket. And then when we got back from the chow hall, I pulled out the note and I read it. And it basically was a suicide note. And I don't know what happened to that soldier, because I went straight to my drill sergeant and I turned in that note. And I had reservations about turning that note. I was like, she's going to be so mad at me. But I'd like to believe that I did the right thing and that I got her help by telling the drill sergeants. Flash forward. After 3 tours in Iraq, 2012, I retired from the military and I started working in Veterans Services as an admin to the VSO in Lynn City Hall. I kept in touch with a lot of my friends back at the Mass National Guard unit that I had deployed with several times. And there was a small group of us that if one of us was going to deploy, we called the rest, and we all volunteered and we all deployed. And that's how I ended up on 3 deployments with 3 different units with the Mass National Guard. But there was this core group of these 5 guys. And we stuck together through the thick and thin, and we still do today. But we met a lot of soldiers while we were deployed. And I met one particular soldier, and I'm just going to tell you his name was Billy. Billy and I were not great friends. We were just 2 soldiers that served together. In fact, I became very resentful of Billy because a field promotion in the field was being offered, and I didn't get that promotion. Billy did. And I really felt that I deserved it and that he didn't. I talked to my first sergeant and my commander about it. They knew I was resentful, and they knew I was upset, and they gave me time to cool down. And I was back in the rear for about 45 days, and then I went back to my commander and I begged him. I said, I don't like it here in the rear. I don't like it inside of the wire. I'm not used to it. I need to get outside the wire. I need to go back out on a mission. Please get me on a mission. He said he'd think about it. A few days later, he called me in the office and he said, Sergeant Hall, he says, I got a mission for you. He says, but there's a catch. You're going to be the Avon team. You're going to go forward to the base, and you're going to basically do a reconnaissance of a water site where this unit's going to be deployed back to the rear and back to the States. And we're going to take over that water mission. And here's the catch. Billy is going to be your NCOIC. So my job was to make my NCOIC look good. And I did my job, because my job was important to me. And our relationship started to change a little bit, because he thanked me for doing my job well and for making him look good. And we came back from that deployment. We went through our demobilization, and I went back to my old unit, and I don't know what happened to Billy. I hadn't seen him after that. But flash forward a year later, I was in Dedham at the at the Run for the Fallen, and they were bringing in a 9/11 girder at a very somber ceremony late at night. And while this somber ceremony was occurring, all of a sudden this 5-year-old boy come running across the field, screaming and yelling and carrying on like 5-year-olds do. And his father was chasing him, and his father was Billy. And I remember Billy telling me about his son, Anthony, and I got to meet him that night. And that night, Billy looked at me and he thanked me again in a different way. He shook my hand, he put his arm around me, and he thanked me for being, a part of that mission that was so successful over there in Iraq. Flash forward a year from then, and it was about a week before the next Run for the Fallen, and I had had a really bad nightmare the night before. I don't know why. I don't know what caused it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think straight, and I was really depressed. And I woke up at about 5:30 in the morning, and surprisingly, you hear these stories about how veterans can often talk about these feelings to other veterans. At that time, especially being a National Guard soldier that was now retired and having minimal contact with my old unit, the person that was closest to me at that time was my fiance. And she woke up and she recognized that something was wrong, and we sat on the couch and we spoke. And I told her, I said, I don't know, I'm not a man that believes in coincidences. I usually get up every morning, and I'm very routine, as a lot of us veterans are, and I like to turn on the news. And I was trying to do just that in that moment, and the news was on, yet I was on the verge of just breaking down and trying to explain this nightmare that I could hardly remember as I was talking to Rosie, when all of a sudden across the news was Billy's picture. That night, he had taken a gun. He not only shot himself, but he shot his son. And I knew them both. And I had such a sense of guilt over that. Because I'd only seen Billy twice since we had deployed and come back. I described one of those times at the Run for the Fallen, but there was one other time that I saw him. And that was at a funeral for a soldier that we buried, that he and I both served with. Soldiers are subjected to bad things. Even the best of us. It doesn't matter, like David said earlier, if you're found inside the wire or outside the wire, but your proximity to danger and knowledge of what each of you are going through is so real. And the fact is we relive that. They become our triggers. Today, I am the Veteran Services Officer for the town of Dracut. I need self-care. In order to be able to successfully do my job, I have to seek out and continue with my self-care, because I subject myself to a world of veteran services. So when a soldier comes into my office and he sits down, I can be brave enough when the need comes to look at him straight or her in the eye and ask that very important question. Do you intend to hurt yourself? Are you suicidal? But the reality is, our service is part of a tradition. So when my stepson joined the service, I was proud. He's only been in for a year and a half, just over a year and a half. He's a PFC. He was 20 when he joined. He's 21 now. No, he just turned 22. So he's got a year and a half in, almost 2 years, just turned 22 a month and a half ago, and he's already in the Middle East, and he's in the Army Reserves. I fear for him. But I am so proud of him. And I am so proud of every veteran in this family. So bringing this back to Veterans Day. Veterans Day is about veterans. So I want to share this with you. June 14th, which was Flag Day of this year, 11 veterans organizations got together and they ratified a new creed. When we went into the service, we took an oath of enlistment. If we were an officer, we took an officer's oath of enlistment. While we were if we were in the Coast Guard, we lived the Coast Guard creed. If we were in the Navy, we lived the Navy creed. If we were in the Army, we lived the soldier's creed, and some of us the NCO creed. If we were in the Marine Corps, we lived the rifleman's creed. Every creed slightly different. Every creed it was all about living up to our service and to our values that we were committed to and that we remain committed to today. So 11 veterans organizations decided, well, what happens to these 5 different groups of military service members when they come home? You know, they're still Marines, they're still Army servicemen, sailors, and soldiers. But now they come together back as one group. We are all veterans. You saw a number of veterans groups standing up here representing different veterans groups, but the one thing we have in common is we are all veterans. And JJ, now he's a veteran too. So I give to you the Veterans Creed. I am a veteran. I proudly served my country. I live the values I learned in the military. I continue to serve my community, my country, and my fellow veterans. I maintain my physical and mental fitness. I continue to lead and improve. I make a difference. I know and honor and remember my fellow comrades. I am an American veteran. Thank you.
Sergeant at Arms, please escort Mr. Eric Lamash to the podium. Yes.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Take a seat. Take a seat.
My name is Staff Sergeant David Crockett, United States Army.
My name is Tyler Southern. I was a corporal in the United States Marine Corps.
Just outside of Samara, Iraq, we were hit with a massive IED.
We were given accurate intelligence that were up to 6 Taliban held up in a compound.
Instantly, just a blast of hot air just came over me, and an intense pressure that you couldn't imagine.
We all split up and took different sides. I led my team to the far side, which was laced with 4 IEDs.
At that point, it basically rendered me unconscious for 45 minutes. I was in and out for about an hour until I basically kind of came to in a field hospital at Fob Spiker in Tikrit.
We all missed the first one on the front corner and turkey peeking a doorway. I stepped on the second. 10 pounds of homemade explosives, pressure plate IED, buried 6 inches, detonated immediately.
I've been home about 6 months now, and I still have my doubts. I'm not sure how I got here or how I'm gonna get out. And my mama says I look the same as I did before I left. But if she could see inside of me, it would scare her to death. I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun. I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run." I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. They taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it off. Last Saturday they honored us in a small parade downtown. When they shot off those fireworks, I nearly hit the ground. And while they smiled and cheered for us, all I could do was stare. 'Cause part of me is here at home, but part of me's back there. And I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun. And I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run." I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. They taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it off. God, there's no end in sight. 'Cause even though I'm home now, I'm still fighting for my life. I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun. I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run." And I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. They taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it off.
I've prided myself on finding the silver lining in absolutely every situation. No matter how hard it is to find, there is a bright side to everything. I may have been relieved of 3 of my original issued limbs, but that gave me the opportunity to find true love, family, made him a possibility. You know, you might have to widen your gaze, but it's there.
Maybe in another life I could find you there, pulled away before your time. I can't deal, it's so unfair, and it feels like heaven so far away, and it feels, yeah, it feels like the world has grown cold now that you've gone away. And Hail Mary silence. Who are we mistaken? But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they are fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their drones. In your head, they are crying. What's in your head? In your head. Stop it, stop it, stop it. What's in your head? In your head. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Another mother's breaking heart is taking over. When the violence causes silence, we must be mistaken. It's the same old theme in 2018. In your head, they're still fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their guns and their drones. In your head, they are dying. What's in your head? In your head. Stop it, stop it, stop it. What's in your head? In your head. Stop it, stop it, stop it. It's the same old theme in 2018. In your head, they are dying. What's in your head? In your head. Stop it, stop it, stop it. What's in your head? In your head. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Stand. Uncover. As we part this place and company, may our higher spirit guide us and give us the humility not to take for granted the freedom and rights of our brave servicemen and women have given us, but to cherish it every moment of our lives. May we be guided so that our actions and lives honor their sacrifices. Amen. Cover.
We'll be gathering outside at the river and at the bridge for the water ceremony is a naval tradition in honor of all of those who had fallen. So if you exit through those doors, we'll meet down there. Thank you.
Why? I'm expecting more speeches, like something. No. That is on you. I'm not. Oh, this is a nice shot.
I'm going to take this opportunity to speak. Will I get in your shot if I do so? All right, let's start off with Just Right Dress first. Okay. Put your safety back on. Okay. Just in case. Ready, aim, fire. After you fire, bring them right back down. Ready, aim, fire. Come down. Ready, aim, fire. Bring it right down. Half left. Breathe that. Arm. Quarter, arm. Parade, rest. And hut. All right, now take your safety off. Good, thank you. All right, we'll be at parade rest, gentlemen. Fire details, stand hut, court arm. Half right, heat. Ready, aim, fire. Ready, aim, fire. Ready, aim, fire. Half left, heat. Breathe and arm. Parade, rest, fine detail, can hut, dismiss. All right, safety's on.